Alright, me babbers, Bristolian Dave here. Welcome back. Today, something a little different. Today, we are going to look at 5 movies that you didn't know were based off comic books. Now, of course, everyone knows I'm a physical media guy, and that does include comic books, so why not, I thought, combine one of my loves with the other one, movies with comic books, and we can see if you know any of these yourself, and do you know the comic books they were based off. And make sure as we go through this list, you stick around to the end, and then I'll give you a recommendation of a comic book that you can buy this kind of related to one of the movies that we talk about today.
Sore face.
Your vision's about me.
Most definitely.
So let's start with a little bit of Johnny Depp. From Hell is a 2001 horror mystery movie starring Johnny Depp, Heather Graham, Ian Holm, Robbie Coltrane and Jason Fleming. The movie is based on the comic book of the same name. It is based quite loosely, however, and that comic book was written by none other than Alan Moore and drawn by Eddie Campbell. Johnny Depp plays Freddie Aberline as the lead investigator in a gruesome series of murders related to none other than the infamous Jack the Ripper. This movie has been praised for its visual effects throughout the movie and atmospheric visuals. There are some gory murders to boot. From Hell did suffer from some shuffling of the casts. Sean Connery was actually supposed to be playing Johnny Depp's role, and Ian Holm replaced Nigel Hawthorne due to his terminal cancer diagnosis. Rest in peace. Alan Moore, the writer of the comic book, did criticize the movie version of Freddie Aberline due to him wanting, and this is his words, I'll read them out, a more gruff version. Instead, he got an absinthe-swilling dandy version. That's his words, not mine. I'll leave that up to you to decide if you've read the comic book and seen the movie. From Hell is definitely worth a look, especially if you're into the whole horror genre, mysteries, or if you've got a thing for Jack the Ripper, which sounds a little weird saying, to be honest.
Let's just say we're very hard to kill.
The Old Guard. It's a superhero movie from 2020, but not a Marvel or DC one, surprise, surprise. The Old Guard is a 2020 superhero movie that revolves around a team of mercenaries who happen to be immortal on a mission to get revenge. And now it's time for this Bristolian accent to mess up a few people's names in this cast. So The Old Guard stars Charlize Theron, Kiki Lane, Matthias Schoenaerts, Marwin Kenzari, Luca Marnelli, Harry Melling, Veronica Ngo, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. The comic of the same name was released in 2017 and was written by Greg Rucka. So it's nice to have a comic book that's been made more recently actually adapted into a movie. Greg Rucka did also help write the screenplay for this movie, so it's more likely to be closer to the source material, which is key in a successful movie of any kind, in my opinion. The Old Guard did achieve positive reviews, both from audiences and critics alike, which again is unusual. Usually it's one or the other. And the movie was actually praised for its action scenes. In fact, it did so well that a sequel is actually scheduled for release sometime in 2023. At this point, it's going to be later 2023 because we're already in July. So if you haven't checked out The Old Guard, make sure you do. I mean, Charlize Theron is reason enough to do it if you haven't already.
All that is about to change.
Next up, we have The Mask from 1994. I was 2 when this came out. So The Mask stars Jim Carrey in the titular role as Stanley Ipkiss, a down-on-his-luck, timid bank clerk whose life is turned upside down when he discovers a magical mask. This mask is imbued with the power of the Norse god Loki. Not Loki from the MCU, the Norse god Loki. He puts the mask on, and then he's transformed into pretty much the complete opposite of himself. He goes from timid to being brash. He goes from not that funny to being absolutely hilarious. Plus, to top it off, he gains some superpowers along with it. I mean, is that not a good thing? Putting on that mask and gaining all those advantages? However, the mask does come with a cost, and it does happen to be the wearer's sanity. So as the movie unfolds, we can see that Stanley is becoming more and more obsessed with the mask and more unhinged. And of course, you can't forget Cameron Diaz in this movie as well. Absolutely stunning, and she did fantastic in her role alongside Jim Carrey in this movie as the damsel in distress. And yes, The Mask is based off a comic book of the same name as well, published by Dark Horse. The comic is actually a much darker version than what we saw in the movie, and generally in the comics, the mask wearer tends to become more of a villain, and of course a lot more murderous. To be honest, The Mask is probably the movie that really cemented Jim Carrey as a leading man in Hollywood, especially in his comedy movies. And to be honest, it's a good thing. We got so much good stuff out of him for this. So if you haven't checked out The Mask already, if you were too young when it come out, or you only just born, because I know there are people born in the year 2000 that are like getting old enough to see the movie now, check it out. It's a fantastic movie. Like I said, Jim Carrey is hilarious, and it's just all round fun, and you can really get a lot of repetition out of this movie.
Smoking!
What's Papa's job? He works for Mr. Rooney.
Road to Perdition is a 2002 American crime drama movie. The movie is directed by Sam Mendes, who also gave us movies such as Jarhead, American Beauty, and Skyfall. Road to Perdition is based off a comic book of the same name, written by Max Allan Collins. The movie follows Tom Hanks as he plays mob enforcer Mike Sullivan, who has no choice but to flee after his eldest son sees a mob hit. But that does turn this movie into a revenge movie, with Tom Hanks's son, youngest son, and wife being murdered by this mob. So, I mean, is there a better reason for revenge than that? I mean, I suppose if your dog gets killed, could do a John Wick. And this movie is chock full of talent as well, including Paul Newman, a young Superman in the form of Tyler Hoechlin, and yes, I still can't pronounce names. And it does have young James Bond in as well, in the form of Daniel Craig. So if you're a fan of gangster movies, I do recommend checking out this movie, and why not pick up the comic book as well and have a little read through of that one. Can't get enough gangsters, can we?
We Spartans are descended from Hercules himself, taught never to retreat, never to surrender.
300 is a 2006 historical action movie. This movie is loosely based on Frank Miller's comic book of the same name. The story follows King Leonidas as he leads a troop of 300 bodyguards out to battle against the Persian Empire, which is invading Sparta. This army is led by the god king Xerxes. And this Spartan army is vastly outnumbered, from 300 to about 300,000. But that doesn't seem to deter this warrior race, which, as you'll see in the movie, they have the skills of probably 1,000 men each. The story also unravels at home with King Leonidas' wife and Queen of Sparta, Queen Gorgo, as she tries to rally support from the Spartan Empire, as the initial support was declined when King Leonidas tries to get that support from the council in Sparta. And of course, King Leonidas is played by Gerard Butler. This role did help propel him into mainstream blockbuster movies and really rose him to the heights of success that you see him have today. And to be honest, it's probably the role most people know him for now. So the production team on 300 did a fantastic job with the lighting and the visual effects to make it feel more like the actual comic book as well, almost like a sepia type tone to it. So if you haven't watched 300, I mean, most people of the age when it came out have, but if you're someone who missed it for whatever reason, definitely check 300 out, if not for the action alone, but also for the historical, I want to say accuracy, because obviously it's very over the top, but also for the fact that this is Gerard Butler at his best, and who doesn't remember the "This is Sparta" kick?
This is madness! Madness. This is Sparta!
And as promised earlier in the video, guys, I said I would recommend a comic book based on a similar topic to one of the movies we looked at today. So that comic book I'm recommending today is Jack the Ripper, Vampire Hunter. This book takes a spin on the original story of Jack the Ripper and turns him into a vampire hunter Now, his goal in this is to find and destroy the Highgate vampire who has turned dozens of people and prostitutes into vampires, newborn vampires, which we all know newborn vampires are very deadly. So his goal is to destroy the Legion. Now, this book is written by Mandy Summers, put out by Stuntman Comics, and has the advantage of having some absolutely beautiful art on it by Mr. Peter Gilmore. If you haven't checked this out, I will put a link down in the description of the video for Stuntman Comics. It is absolutely beautiful, and I highly recommend checking this book out if you love anything to do with comics or movies. So guys, we have come to the end here. Now, I will leave a video up here that you can check out. It's just one of my more recent collection updates. You can check that out and see all the movies I buy. And remember guys, comics and movies are very closely related. If you like movies, the chances are you're going to like comics. And you don't have to be a guy who likes to read a lot. Very simply, look at the pictures. It's the main medium, guys. We like looking at pictures, and we like story. So there'll be another 5 movies very, very soon. So if you like this one, make sure you hit the like button, guys, because YouTube then tells me that you guys like it, and it will spread it to more people, and then I can do more videos. So why not? And do leave comments down below. Have you seen any of these movies? Do you like any of them? If not, why? If you do, why? Let me know, guys. And what I'll do is leave you right there. Just have a think, alright? When was the last time you read a comic book? If you can't remember, go pick one up now. Cheers, me babbers.